Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Tila and I help creatives build and monetize their digital skills. We're going to be doing both of those things in this video. So we'll be building up some Procreate skills by creating some line art florals and utilizing layer masking. Then we're going to create a sellable product. We're going to hot foil our design and then we're going to bind it. So we'll do a simple 5-hole binding to keep it all secure, and then you'll have a really beautiful and pretty easy sellable that you can repeat over and over and over again once you have those files. So the whole reason that we're doing this today is I have a serious problem with making to-do lists. I usually take just a plain sheet of copy paper, I fold it in half, I make my lists on all sides of it, and then it just sits in a pile on my desk. And it piles up and piles up until I finally decide to declutter my desk. Today, my hope is that I'm going to create these notebooks that are the same size. So it's just a regular 8.5 by 11 or A4 size paper, folded in half, filled with paper that will be much more beautiful on my desk than just a stack of random copy paper. So we're going to hop onto the iPad first. We'll create those line art florals, and then the fun will begin and we'll start hot foiling and binding those notebooks together. All right, I've got my Procreate canvas all ready. This is sized 8.5 by 11, which is the same size as that copy paper. So that's going to be my cover. You can also use A4 if you'd like. And we need to figure out where the center is because it's going to be folded in half. That way we can create our artwork at the right size on it. So in order to do that, all you're going to do is hit the wrench icon, go into Canvas, toggle on Drawing Guide, and then hit Edit Drawing Guide. Down here, just increase your grid size all the way to max, and now you have the two crosshairs, and we've got that center line, so we'll use that as our guideline of where the fold will happen. I also work in the Display P3 color profile, but that doesn't really matter for this because we just need the line art, and then I always work at 300 DPI, so make sure you're working in 300 DPI. All right, I have just True Black selected. That's the only color we're using here, so just tap where black is and you'll get True Black, and then I'm going to head into my Bouquet Maker brush set. This just makes it really easy to create line art florals because they're just stamps. We stamp them in and then we remove any overlap. So I'll show you what that process looks like. So I always start with my hero flowers, and I go over this in much more detail, that whole process, in my Flat Florals class, which I will leave a link to on screen and in the video description. All right, I'm going to head into my Flat Hero, which is all the hero flowers. And I'm going to use some roses for this. So I'm coming down here to hero number 36, and I can just tap this in with my finger. And then the really important thing here is you just want to create every element on a brand new layer. So I'm going to create a brand new layer and then grab my hero 37 and stamp that in as well. We'll just kind of see how these look. So I want this one to be positioned above this one. So I'm just going to turn it a little bit. And I think I need to reduce the size of this one a little bit. It's just going to tuck right there. I'm going to select both of these and move them over here to get an idea of scale because I want them to be very prominent and then have some supporting florals around them and then foliage to kind of push everything forward. Reduce the size of both of these a little bit so I can make sure I can fit everything I want to fit in here. And the next thing I do is just add in some supporting florals. So for this one, I've got a couple. I'm going to create a brand new layer, and I've got a couple right here that I want to use. So I'm going to grab hero number 34 first and stamp that in, and I'm just going to move it and tuck it right into this side, this bottom left side, and then create a brand new layer. And I'm going to grab hero number 33, stamp that in, and tuck this right next to it. All right, that looks good. Don't worry about these overlaps yet. We're going to take care of all of that and clean it up in just a little bit. I just like dropping all of my elements in so I get my proportions correct and my positioning, and then I go in and clean everything up. So the next thing I'm going to do is add one more supporting floral over here that's a little different than these ones. So I'm going to create a brand new layer and head into my flat supporting category, and I'm grabbing supporting number 20 for this. So once again, stamping it in with my finger, dragging it over, repositioning it, and making sure the scale feels right with the other flowers that I have. That looks good. I'm just working my way outwards, so I'm paying more attention to the scale and then how everything looks around the outside, because obviously things are looking more and more confusing on the inside because we have all those overlaps happening. But as long as your scale feels right and your outside contours are feeling really good, then you can continue moving on. The next thing I'm going to do is drop in some foliage, and all this foliage is going to sit behind everything. So I'm just going to create a brand new layer and drag it all the way to the bottom, so right above the background color layer. And now let's pick out some foliage. I'm going to head into my flat filler category, and I want to have foliage up around the top. So it's kind of framing it in a curve up at the top and then a similar curve down at the bottom. I'm going to leave the edges as just being floral, so it gives your eye something to come in and focus on. So let's choose our foliage for the top. I'm going to grab filler number 26 and stamp that in. I'm going to reflect it, so flip it horizontally, rotate it a little bit. I want to tuck it right into this little corner. Okay, I'm going to create a brand new layer and drag this underneath that leafy branch. And let's grab another different looking piece of foliage. I'm going to grab filler number 3, stamp that in, and reflect this horizontally. All right, and then I want to add just one more piece of foliage over here, but I want to change up my leaf shape because these ones are kind of pointed ovals at this point, both of these. So I'm going to grab like a berry branch, this one right here. So I'm going to stamp that in, and we'll just tuck this into this corner right here. Okay, and then I feel like I just need something to support the supporting florals. So I'll grab one more large leafy branch for just this area right here. I'm going to create a brand new layer. I'll just drag this one to the bottom. And I'm going to grab filler number 28. I realize that the center is looking very confusing, but just trust me, we do not need to worry about that right now. We're just looking at the different shapes that the outside has and making sure that it feels really interesting and full. Now we're going to come down here and just fill this up with foliage as well, and then we can begin cleaning everything up. I'm going to create a brand new layer, just drag it to the bottom. And for this one, I'm going to grab filler number 25. We'll stamp that in, rotate it. This one's really full, so it's going to take up a lot of space here. So it'll do a lot of work with just me having the one element. And then just to create some asymmetry, I want to repeat the shape of this berry branch down here. So I'm going to create a brand new layer, and I'll grab the other berry branch that's a little fuller, this filler number 8, and we'll just tuck this into this empty spot right here. Okay, it's time to start cleaning everything up. This feels nice and full. It fits this side of the cover really comfortably. So what I like to do is go all the way back to the very beginning. I'm going to turn off all of my layers except for my first 2 flowers, and then we'll start cleaning everything up from there. So I just have my 2 roses, and I've decided I want this rose behind this one. So I'm going to check which one that is. That's this one. I'm going to reduce the opacity. So just drag it all the way down where you can see it, where there's a difference between the 2. That way it's really easy to keep straight which lines that you're hiding and which ones you're revealing. So with layer masking, you paint in black when you want to hide something and white when you want to reveal it. So black conceals and white reveals. If you're brand new to Procreate and new to layer masking, I'll leave a link on screen and in the video description to a full tutorial that I have on layer masking. You will be a pro at the end of that video. There is nothing to worry about here. It's a lot simpler than it sounds. So what I'm going to do is on this layer, I need to make sure it's selected, tap on the layer thumbnail and choose mask. I'm going to make sure I have black selected, so double tap where black is. And then in the Bouquet Maker brush set, I'm going to come into Flat Extras and select my edgy ink brush. Now, wherever I paint in black on this layer, it's going to hide it. So it's not permanently erasing it, it's just temporarily hiding it. And I can always bring it back if I need to, whereas erasing it is destructive editing. It means once it's gone for good. You have to redraw it if you need it again. With masking, you can just hide it. And if you need to bring it back, you just paint in white instead of black. So super simple and makes the process a lot easier for edits. I'm going to just paint in here. And just like you would drawing a shape, I can draw a shape around this outline. It's kind of an invisible shape. You can't see it very well, but then I can drop the black in and hide all of it at once. So that'll make the process go a lot quicker as well. I'm going to increase the opacity now of this, and we're already beginning to clean things up. The next thing I dropped in were these 2 flowers, so I need to decide which one's going to go in front of the other one. I'm going to make this one fall in front of this one. So let's go to the backmost one first. We'll reduce the opacity so we can see the difference, so we know which lines we're focusing on. And then I can apply a layer mask again. So tap on the layer thumbnail and choose mask. I still have my edgy ink selected and my color is black. So I need to hide it behind this rose. So I can draw my shape for that. And then I also need to hide it behind this rose so I can just paint it normally. And then this part's kind of weird, so I'm just going to get rid of it. No one needs to know that there was just a little hairline there. And then I can remove all of this as well. Now we can increase the opacity of that and move on to our next flower, which is this one. I'm going to reduce the opacity so I can see it. Tap on the layer thumbnail, choose mask, and then paint in with my edgy ink brush using black. And then I can increase the opacity again. And now this one's covering up this one, and both of these are behind both roses. We're getting nice and clean and beautiful. I'm going to repeat this process for the remaining supporting florals and all of the foliage. I'll speed up the video, but I'll make sure you see everything so you can watch the full process, and then I'll be back.
I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. I'm trying to make this darkness go away. I'll paint with colors and I'll sing until my lungs give out. I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. And I will leave my windows open so that I can hear the sound of people talking and the wind blowing in the trees. Oh, I will open up my eyes so I can see the light. Oh, and I'll try to spread my wings so I can fly. Oh, and the darkness starts to fade. Feels like things are gonna go my way. I'm gonna let the sun shine in the day.
All right, I've got my florals all masked now, so all the overlaps are taken care of. Everything's nice and clean. And then the last thing that I always like to do, because some of these stamps, when you're resizing them, you're going to have thinner lines than other lines, and I want one uniform thickness for the entire thing. So when I hot foil this, that outline looks consistent across all the elements. So an easy way to do this is I 3-finger swipe and choose copy all, and then come up to the very top, create a brand new layer, 3-finger swipe and choose paste. And that will paste in a copy of everything that was on your screen up on the top layer. You can see it right here. And then I can group all of the other layers that I had together, and then these ones will just be there if I ever want to make changes in the future, but I won't be needing them any further. So I'm going to group these together, toggle it up, and then turn off the visibility. So all I have right now is one layer that has everything flattened on it. Now I can reduce the opacity of this, so it'll be really easy for me to see where I'm tracing. So reduce this down, create a brand new layer right on top. I still have my edgy ink brush selected with black selected, and now I can go in and trace over all of my elements. Okay, I've got the florals all traced now, so there's a uniform weight throughout the entire piece. I can turn off the visibility of our copy down here, and now we can have a look at everything. The last thing I want to do, and I may change my mind about this later, so I want to duplicate this just in case I change my mind. I'm going to turn off the visibility of one of the copies, and on the top copy, I'm going to fill some of my foliage in. That way I can create some extra contrast with the foil. So in this hot foils, there will be areas that are blocked out with foil and then the line art. It'll just look more interesting that way. So this is something I want to give a try. So in order to do this on this brand new layer, I'm just going to drag some black fill into some of the foliage elements, and then this will be all set. So the first element that I want to fill in is this top foliage right here. So I'm just going to drag the black in and then choose continue filling. And then I can just tap in the different areas that I also want to fill. So I'm going to come around this whole piece and just kind of pick and choose different elements to fill in. And then I just want to add my logo to the back of the notebook in case I ever do decide to sell these, then my file will be all ready to go. All I need to do is create a brand new layer up at the top. I've already created a stamp brush of my logo, so I've pinned it up on my recents. Here it is. And if you'd like to learn how to create custom stamp brushes, I'll leave a link on screen and in the video description on how to do that. So all I have to do is tap it in and then position it and scale it the way that I'd like. So now I just need to send this over to my desktop. I'm going to export this as a TIFF, so just come up to your wrench, hit the share icon, and then choose TIFF. I like using TIFF because it's an uncompressed file type, which means you'll retain all the edge quality and resolution of your image if you want to use it for anything like printing or, in our case, hot foiling. So now we get to hot foil this, and I'm so excited for this part. I'll be using xTool's M1 Ultra for our hot foiling, and xTool is today's sponsor. They recently released the hot foil pen and their electrostatic mat. So I'm really excited to try both of those out for this process. If you've ever used a cutting machine in the past, then you know how annoying those sticky mats are. You have to replace them often, the paper curls when you pull it off, and then you have to pick up all the little extra bits off the adhesive when you cut things out. This electrostatic mat gets rid of all of that. You can use it over and over again. It uses static to hold your paper in place that you activate by just hitting a button. You hit the button again and the static charge goes away, and you can literally just wipe any leftover bits away. All you need to do is place it at the bottom of the M1 Ultra, add the cover to it, plug it in, and it's ready to go. Here's how paper moves before it's activated, and here's how well it holds when it is activated. It can even hold basswood in place too, which is super cool. You can't use a laser with it, but you can use the hot foil pen and your cutting tool, and I'll show you what both of those look like. Let's install the hot foil pen next, which just goes into this slot. And then they give you a little bracket to install to hold the cord in place, and then you can just plug it directly into the electrostatic mat. It comes with a fine, medium, and large size nib. I've got the medium one in right now, but I ended up changing it to the large nib. I just saw better results with that. So even though I've got the medium one in here, I did end up using the large one. So once you have it in place, you'll want to hit this little button and it'll warm it up for a minute or two before you start processing. Most cutting machines come with a foil tip that puts pressure on a special kind of foil to adhere it to the material below. So why would you choose a hot foil pen versus just a regular pressure foil tip, which comes with most cutting machines? So the reason I will only use a hot foil pen now is because it creates a permanent bond to the material that won't easily flake or rub away like pressure foiling does. You can also use it on way more materials because of that. So I did a hot foil test on watercolor paper, cardstock, textured cardstock, and basswood, and just look at how nice they all came out. Let's start with a simpler material first. So I'll add my black cardstock to the bed, and then let's head into xTool's software where I have my design all loaded up. And then also tell it that it's on the electrostatic mat. And I'm going to make sure the foil will be set to fill instead of outline, and then turn off the stroke. I did some test settings earlier, and I liked 200 for brush pressure and 100 for speed. Let's add the foil to the paper and secure it in place with some tape, and then we can process it. When it finishes, the electrostatic mat automatically goes into standby mode, so the static isn't active. So I'm going to reactivate the static by hitting the button to keep my paper in place, and then I'll pull the foil off. I need to switch to the fine blade cutting tool, so I need to carefully remove the hot foil pen without touching the bottom. And they give you a cover, which makes that super easy, and then I can just pop in the fine point blade and process my cuts. It's all done cutting, and you can see the light green on the mat, so it's in standby, which means the static is not active. I can just pull my paper up and wipe the extra pieces away. And if you've used a sticky mat before, you really appreciate this right now. I ended up creating 2 more cover designs, so I'm going to process them on different materials. I've got a textured cardstock and watercolor paper. We have our hot foil notebook covers all completed now, so now we can make notebooks out of them. So I want to show you what my binding process looks like. It's actually really simple. So we'll start with the first design that we did. And because I did cutouts on this, I cut up 2 extra pieces of cardstock so I can pop it behind and it'll look really nice on the front. So I need to adhere this first, and then we'll add a signature to it. So I've got a signature. It's got 8 sheets of paper. So when it's folded, I've got 16 sheets altogether. So I'm going to first get these onto this cover, and I've got some glue tape for this, so really simple. And then just do the back cover. Next, I'm going to grab one of my signatures, and I'm going to open it up to the middle, and we're going to create a guide for our holes. I've got my ruler, and my signature is 8 inches long, so my middle point's going to be at 4 inches. And then I'll go 1.5 inches in both directions. So then I'll go to 5.5 and then to 7. And then on the opposite side, I'll go to 2.5 and then to 1. I've got my marks in here, and now I'm going to just poke them with an awl. And I want to make sure I'm going through all the paper and then through the cover as well. All right, I've got all the holes complete in here now, and now we can begin binding. So I need to choose some binding thread. I was thinking either a silver or a blue for this one. I think the blue will stand out better. Like silver's totally the safe choice here. So, oh, it's so hard to decide. All right, so I think because the blue is not a perfect match with the inside cover, I'm going to go with silver. I just think it will feel more cohesive with silver. It's a better match. So it might be the safe choice, but I think it is the better choice in this situation. All right, so what we need to do about 3 lengths of the book worth of the thread. And then cut. So you only need to pull just a little bit through. And then I personally like keeping my knot on the outside of the cover, but if you'd rather it be on the inside, then just begin on the inside. I'm starting on the outside to keep the knot, the final knot on the outside, but it's totally up to you. You can see what both look like at the end and then decide if you want to start on the inside or the outside. So wherever you start is where the knot's going to be. So I'm going to go through the outside of the cover and come in right in the middle hole. And you'll leave just a little bit at the end. This will leave us some thread to make our knot. And then I'm going to come in the next closest hole. And then go back in the last hole. Then we're going to come back in the hole that we were in previously. So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going to go from 5 to 4 here. And then we're going to skip all the way to the hole above the middle one. So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going to skip up to 2 here. And then go to the topmost hole. I'm going to come back down now. And then in through the center. And that's it. So pretty simple, but very strong too. I can just tuck this on the other side of the center string, pull everything nice and tight, and create my knot and trim off any excess. Then we have our notebook, and you can see that the knot's on the outside of the binding, but if you'd rather it be in the center, then once again, just start in the center instead of starting from the outside, and then you'll have your knot in the center. I like how clean this is in the book. I don't have this knot right in the middle. That's always forcing the pages to the center. So now I've got my little notebook that I can keep all my to-do lists in. So I'm going to finish binding the last 2 covers, so I'll speed up the video, and then our notebooks will be complete.
Rusty red on her shoulder, I was cleaning her shoe when it clicked on the trot over in the bright morning dew. We brushed and we braided dandelions and chewed. It was a mutual arrangement we both saw into. But can she walk in the fire? Can she run in the rain? Can she make it up the mountainside? Can she make it down again? I have often...
And now I've got some notebooks prettying up my desk instead of a stack of past to-do lists. As always, everything mentioned in this video is right in the video description, and I will see you next time.